lots of different outlets are reporting that up to 140 members of the Republican caucus in the House are going to be objecting the Electoral College count on Wednesday. Are you going to be one of them?
So I know that's the simple question to a very complicated answer, because it doesn't matter whether it's 140 or one. All it takes is one House member and one senator to then force a vote on each of the states. Now, what is unclear is that will each state be viewed as one instance and only one 2-hour debate and vote as to whether to reject the electors that have been sent is going to happen? Or is it going to be 143 objections paired up with however many Senate objections? You need to have senators that are willing to object to a state. So that may be limited as to how many you have. So we literally don't know whether it's going to be one vote for Michigan and Pennsylvania and some of the other states that have been reported that there's going to be objections to, or whether it's 12. We just don't know. So I will not be objecting to Michigan's Electoral College results because of the hundreds of hours that I and my team have put in investigating some of the allegations of system-wide fraud. I have not been able to find hard evidence of that at all. Are there issues and problems? Absolutely. All you have to look at what happened at TCF Center to know that there are issues that have to be dealt with. But I don't believe there's 153,000 votes worth of that that is evident. And in fact, some of the accusations that have been leveled here in the state of Michigan are in my district, in the 2nd district. 4 of them being cited as precincts in Ottawa County that don't use the Dominion system that's much talked about. My hometown, my home area of Zeeland had in Zeeland Township, there was a claim that there was a 460% voter turnout, a 790% voter turnout in North Muskegon. Well, it's just demonstrably false. It's not actually accurate. And that's what leads me to believe that Michigan, while it has its issues and problems, is going to move forward with those electoral votes here. I am reserving the right, though, to look at evidence, both here in Michigan, if other people have evidence, but more importantly, what's going to be in other states. I'm really going to be relying on my colleagues from other states to find out what they have to say about what happened in their states.
So while you won't object, you are still not committing to voting to accept certification of Electoral College.
So that's not how it works, though.
Okay.
It's not a vote yes to accept or vote no to reject. The only time that we vote is if there is a challenge, and after there is this 2 hours of debate, we vote as to whether we are going to affirm the objection or not.
Okay.
And as I'm sitting here right now, I don't see the evidence that would allow me to affirm an objection here in Michigan.
Okay. But you'd be paying attention, like you said, other states like Georgia and whatnot. Oh
yeah, I'd be stupid not to. I mean, when there's serious allegations that have been made, they need to be listened to. Now, there also needs to be evidence that needs to be produced. And that is really the responsibility of those making the accusation. So,
and that leads to my next question, Congressman, because of all of these accusations, and you're right, there have been a ton of accusations. Nothing, however, seems as though it is legit. There have been dozens of court cases across multiple states, and they have been kicked out of court by democratically appointed judges, by Republican appointed judges, by Trump appointed judges. There seems to be absolutely nothing in any widespread manner whatsoever that has any kind of substantive fact to it.
Well, I don't fully accept your premise, Nick, because most of those cases were rejected on procedure, not on content. All right. And that was why I had signed on to the Texas amicus brief, the amicus brief that said, not that Texas was right, but said Texas should be able to make its case in front of the Supreme Court. That's what the amicus brief said. People are getting all these issues all conflated. And I do believe, let me be very clear, I believe that Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State in Michigan, went outside the law when she did this blanket application that got sent out to 7.7 million people in Michigan, potential voters, including people that had been college students and had left or had grown up here and went to college and never came back to Michigan. I know some of those people, right? That is the problem. And I understand that there was this recording court that said it was legal and okay, but it didn't go to the state Supreme Court. And more problematically, the state legislature has not asserted itself in this. And that's really where the issue lies as well. It makes it very difficult for me to overturn or to reject a certified state election result when the state legislature passed on taking this up. They're the ones that ultimately have that responsibility.
But the legislature years ago voted to give up that power, did they not? They spoke years ago by saying, we're getting out of this and we're leaving this up entirely to the electors and whatnot.
So, and Nick, if they had, yes, and if they had a problem and an issue with the actions of Jocelyn Benson, or they wanted to do something else, then they should have acted on that, and they haven't. All right. So this may be an issue moving beyond 2020 here. But I served for 6 years in the state legislature. And I know that under the Granholm administration, we had some real issues with the DEQ and a couple of other departments. And there were years where their budget started out at zero. And we negotiated up from there. So now it seems to me, I would kindly advise my friends in Lansing, they need to start doing that. They need to assert themselves, because the courts, often you were bringing up these court cases, oftentimes the court doesn't view this as, hey, it's time for mom or dad to step in between two rivaling kids that are fighting. This is like three siblings, and two siblings have gone to the third sibling and said, hey, you decide which one of us is right. Well, that third sibling is saying, that being the judiciary in this example, is saying, we're not doing that. By the way, legislative sibling, you've got the credit card, executive sibling, you've got the car keys. You guys work out how this is going to work as to where you're going and how the money's going to get spent.
The broader picture of all this, when you look at, there have been audits in Georgia, there have been recounts, and in every instance, I think it was Fulton, one of the counties had a 99% accuracy rate. The argument is that there has been no proof of any kind of widespread fraud. This is simply about just trying to get the election overturned. And in his conversation with the Georgia Attorney General, President Trump said specifically, I just need these 11,040 votes. He put out an exact number of what he needed to win that state. Congressman, that's not about fraud. That's just about.
So, Nick, I'm not talking about Georgia. I'm talking about Michigan.
But you did say you would be looking at other states.
Yes, yeah, of course. Why would I not look to hear evidence if people have evidence?
So what do you think then when you hear the President of the United States tell the Georgia Attorney General, find me 11,040 votes?
Yeah, I don't think it was appropriate.
Does it tell you that his motivation isn't fraud? It's just about overturning.
I'm not worried about his motivation. I'm worried about the integrity of the electoral process that tens of millions of people have doubt about. So, this is not, Nick, hold on. This is not about one president or another president. This is about whether our constitutionally put together form of government is going to operate the way that it has. And this is probably one of the most compelling arguments is coming from some of the most conservative members of the House of Representatives. Thomas Massey, Chip Roy, and a number of others. And I'm actually quite sympathetic and understand where they're coming from. And what their point is that when you've got a state that has certified, is it the job of Congress, the House and the Senate combined, to then decide whether the electors that are sent from those states are the right electors? Or the ones that should have been chosen, or is our job to just verify that those are the votes? And not to get into all the history of this, but there are 3 certified copies of every set of electors that are produced, signed, certified, and sealed. 2 of them get sent to the archivist here in Washington, D.C., and a third one gets sent to a federal judge in the jurisdiction of where those votes have been cast. So in this case, in Lansing.
Yeah.
And the reason is because back in the day when these things were being transported by train or stagecoach or whatever else, at my horseback, whatever it might have been, they wanted to make sure that the votes that got opened up on the House floor were the exact same votes that were produced in the state of origin, right?
Mhm.
So that fundamentally is a question, and that I'm very inclined to lean towards as I'm looking at the arguments of what our role, our constitutional role in all of this is. It's not necessarily my role to decide which electors a state should have sent. The argument goes is that it's our job to verify that those electors that were sent by a state are in fact the ones that the state sent. So now, notwithstanding, if there is evidence of a system-wide issue in, let's say, Arizona, that's one of those states that had a legislature that authorized the Secretary of State to change their operational standards, unlike what happened in Michigan. But I've got colleagues who are telling me that they've got evidence that they believe that there was systems issues there. Why would I not listen to that?
That's
to find
fine.
out what they have to say.
But
So
we've
again,
had-
I'm not committed to saying I'm voting to reject any state's electors at this point. I want to hear evidence.
Why haven't they presented this evidence already? We are beyond the 11th hour. The election was in early November. Why have we not seen any of this evidence that they keep talking about?
So again, that is, I cannot give you the answer as to why the Trump team, legal team, was late oftentimes in filing things. A lot of people are quite upset. Their supporters out here in Washington, D.C., that they did not have a better legal team staffed up, ready to go on this stuff. So I can't answer that. I can only deal with what is in front of me at the time when it comes in front of me.
One of the things you said tens of millions of Americans have doubts or have questions about this election. But Congressman, isn't that because a lot of Trump supporters have been outright lying about the circumstances of this election? So they go out there and they lie about the election. They give people doubts about it, and then they say, "Oh, people have doubts. We have to investigate."
Nick, you know why people are not sure about what's going on is because this president was attacked falsely under this Russia hoax before he was even sworn in. I thought I lived the textbook of what was going to happen in politics when I had to vote on an impeachment. Now we add the Electoral College. But there's a group of people out there that feel mocked, dismissed, not taken seriously here in the United States. And unfortunately, and I'm not saying it's you all locally, the media, but there is no doubt that there is a movement that has happened. And this president has been under siege like no other president in modern era over the last 4 years, every single day. Some of that is of his doing. Some of that is him just fighting back with his New York, New Jersey moxie, which admittedly, and I've told you this and had some of our other interviews, doesn't necessarily play well in West Michigan. But the fact is that there's tens of millions of people who feel that they have been under assault, and this is the guy that stood up for them and who fought for them, and they're now willing to go fight for him. Now the problem is that so I took those allegations seriously. I took those concerns seriously. That's why I was digging into affidavits and I was digging into these reports and these claims of what's been going on. Including in Kent County, including in my own district in Ottawa County, which doesn't even use Dominion, right? So I've been trying to go through and educate people and debunk where I can possibly do that. Yet at the same time, I know that there was issues at TCF Center. My son was accredited poll watcher who got locked out. He got kicked out, all right? So he was working on the John James campaign. So don't tell me that there aren't problems with it. But what I'm telling you is I don't see, and what it's been hard for some of my colleagues or some of my constituents to accept, is I don't see 153,000 votes worth of fraud and abuse here in the state of Michigan. But that doesn't mean the state legislature shouldn't be taking a serious look at what the function is of running those elections here in Michigan.